Good morning everyone and welcome back to Lynn's Kitchen. This morning I thought we could make a Victoria sponge that we could have for the weekend, maybe for Sunday tea. Just a simple Victoria sponge filled with jam and topped with caster sugar. And once you've mastered the art of making a lovely Victoria sponge, the world's your oyster in the area of cakes. I woke up this morning quite chirpy this morning, I have to say. I think it's partly to do with the fact that my son sets for us a challenge every day to pick a song for a playlist. I've got to do this for 30 days. So I think probably lots of you have been doing that. So we're on the day where we had to pick something from the 70s. And I was thinking back to my childhood, to the 70s, and a song that came to mind was The Carpenters, On Top of the World. Well, I started to sing that and I felt quite chirpy and I thought, well, that's a good way to start the day. So with that in mind, we're going to make a Victoria sponge and hopefully we'll all feel on top of the world. So a Victoria sponge is very straightforward to do. The first thing I would recommend you start with is turning on your oven, easy, to 160 degrees. That would be a fan oven, and then 180 if your oven isn't a fan oven, and that's about gas mark 4. So turn that on and have that heating away while you prepare your cake. So the ingredients are very straightforward. I've got 8 ounces or 200 grams of marge. Now that's Stork baking marge, but any of the soft margarines will work perfectly well and give you a lovely moist Victoria sponge. I have the same quantity of caster sugar. Let me show you the bag of caster sugar I had to get this week. This was the only bag of caster sugar I could get my hands on in Tesco's this week. Can you believe it? Look at the size of it. It's like a catering size. That was the only caster sugar in Tesco's. But I'm not really that upset because that leaves me lots of sugar for baking for the next wee while. Anyway, so that was 8 ounces of caster sugar or 200 grams of caster sugar. I've got the same in self-raising flour, so it's equal quantities of butter, sugar and margarine. So that's 200 grams of self-raising flour or 8 ounces. And I've just got 4 eggs. So the first thing you want to do, because you want a lovely light and airy sponge, is we're going to put the butter and sugar into my mixing bowl. And we're going to beat them for a good wee while until the caster sugar and the butter are well combined. They're a lovely pale colour and very light and fluffy. So let's turn on the good trusty machine and see how we get on. So, still battling with the hair. Look at it today. It's like some sort of talk about 1970s. Bouffant, maybe 1980s, bouffant. Can't get my colour, so the roots are really driving me mad. But I will succeed. I will find something. So it's on full speed until it all combines really well. And if you've been watching any of my other videos, you need to stop and scrape down the bowl sort of halfway through, just so that all the... I don't know why they make it like that, but the beaters don't quite get right to the bottom of your bowl. So you just do need to kind of scrape round the edges and just put it on then again for another minute or so until all the ingredients are nicely combined. So that's lovely. Here we go. This machine takes a wee minute to build up to speed, you can hear it, but it's a good sturdy mixer. I would recommend it, I must say, it's excellent and it suits for all that I do. But don't worry, if you don't have a big mixer, you can use a hand beater. Victoria sponge works perfectly well with that, or you know, really you can even make it with a spoon, a wooden spoon in a bowl. So kids, you want them to make it with your kids, just let them work away with it in a bowl and just beat up the sugar and the butter with a wooden spoon, and that'll work just as well. Now, if I just show you, the colour is nice and pale and it's all very smooth and beaten well in together, and whenever you scrape it down the side you can feel that it's nicely softened. So that's the butter and the sugar. And then what you want to do next is break the 4 eggs, into the bowl. So there's the first one, second one. I normally would use a medium egg rather than the larger ones, but at the moment, whatever you can get your hands on. We don't have necessarily a choice in everything that we want to get. So that's our eggs into the bowl. Now, some people add an egg and then some flour, and an egg and then some flour, but you don't need to do that. Just add your eggs into the bowl and then add your flour in. Put it back into your mixer. Slowly, so we don't send a cloud of flour around the kitchen as always. And we'll just get it up to speed bit by bit. And you can watch the ingredients all combining together. So it takes a little minute for them to combine. Get it up to speed. And then now beat that for a good minute. And as you beat it, you can see again the colour changes and it becomes paler as the air gets into the mixture. And just about halfway through, again, just scrape down the sides of your bowl just to pick up any of the flour that's maybe, just as you can see, there's a bit of flour around the edge of my bowl. I just want to make sure I get that all into the mixture and that the bottom of the bowl, the ingredients are combining properly. So just combine those all again and put it back into your mixer and let that beat. And in my head, and I've always done this, I don't know why, this is something I've done since I learned to bake, was I count to about 30 while the mixer's beating, and that's usually enough. So in your head, just count to 30 slowly, and that'll let it beat for the length of time. You don't want to overbeat it, then you can knock a lot of the air out of it. So it's sort of a fine line between adding air and then beating it out of it. That was my timer on. I'm making some fruit cakes as well just at the minute, so they're in the oven. It's actually a tea loaf. I love a tea loaf, and I had some fruit left over in the bottom of the cupboard, so I was making a tea loaf. But I'll have a little video clip of that, and you can see that later. Now, if you can just see, that mixture is lovely and pale and whipped up, and it looks just perfect. And that's what you want from your cake mix. I'm going to move that out of the road, and I'm just going to show you the tins that I'm going to put the cake in. So these are just a standard Victoria sponge tin that you can get. Most of the supermarkets have them, and probably you have some of them at home. It doesn't matter if it's square or circular, but I have, all mine are circular. So I have a little bit of oil in the bottom of each of my tins. And I'm just going to, this mixture will fill 2 of these tins to make me a sandwich cake. And I'm just going to brush a little bit of, it's just vegetable oil, around the edge of the tins. Although these are non-stick tins and, you know, the cake probably would come out without you doing it, I never like to take the risk, because if you're going to all that effort of making a nice cake, you don't want to lose bits of it at the bottom of the tin. So I've just literally go around the outside, particularly the outside, because you're going to put a wee bit of parchment paper on the bottom. So then I've got 2 pieces of parchment paper, and I'm going to show you how to make a circle from it. So I'm just folding my squares in half, and in half again, and in half again. So you end up with like a little triangle. And then I'm going to put it onto the center, the point of it into about the center of your tin, and find where the edge is, just mark it if you can. And then if you take your scissors and just cut around the edge, and that will give you a pretty good circle to put in the bottom of each of your tins. I'm just going to press the paper in just a little bit bigger, but that's fine. Turn over my tin, press it in, that's lovely. And that just really stops the cake from sticking in your bottom of your tin, so you're taking no risks at all. Right, let me just clear up the work surface a little bit. There we go. A little bit of oil on it. So next we want to divide our mixture between the two tins. And all I do is just put one scoop into at a time, and one and then one into the other. And basically just divide your mixture up. 2, 3, that's 3 each, and then there's just a few wee scrapings. Just divide it in half between the two. There we go. And then just take a knife and spread it out into the corners, there's no corners in a circle. Spread it out to the edges. There we go. And just flatten it down nicely so that it rises evenly in the oven. So spread that out nicely. That's lovely. Just make sure the edges are nice and clean and everything is spread out. So these go into the hot oven now for the best part of 25 to 30 minutes. Again, it'll just depend on your oven, but look at them after 25 and I'll show you then how you can tell whether the sponge is cooked or not. But we'll pop those into the oven for 25 minutes to start with. Right, these 2 sponges have been in the oven for 25 minutes. And if you just have a look at them, they're nicely risen, they're firm to the touch, and they're a lovely golden colour. If you're in any doubt, just take a little cocktail stick and press it into the centre and pull it out. And as long as it comes out clean and there's no soft cake mix, it's cooked. Another wee tip is you can see just around the edges, it's just starting to come away from the edge of the tin, and that's a sure sign that it's cooked as well. So they're nicely risen, they're golden, and they're firm to the touch. Now I'm just going to let them cool in the tin for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to turn them onto a cooling rack and let them cool right down before we add the jam and the caster sugar. Just while I was looking at the, looking back over the first half of the video, I noticed I was covered in flour, so hopefully I'm all sorted out and I got rid of the flour. So I'm just going to let those sit and cool for about 5 minutes in the tin, then turn them out, and I'll show you that now in a minute. So these have been cooling for about 5 minutes and I'm just going to turn them out of the tin. So I'm just pop a knife around the edge just to loosen the edge, carefully around the edge, and just flick the tin onto the cooling rack. And I take the greaseproof paper off, or the parchment paper off now while I can. And as you can see, nothing stuck to the bottom of the tin, and they've come out really well. So let's do the other half. I'm just going to run the knife around the edge and make sure there's enough room on the cooling rack. Turn the cake upside down. And you can't do that when the tin's really hot, so that's why you need to leave it to cool for about 5 minutes or so before you tip it out. And as you can see, there's a lovely golden colour. They're nicely risen, and they'll be ready for jam and caster sugar shortly. So I'm just going to leave those to cool, and I'll see you again. Now that the cakes are cooled, we're going to decorate them, and just very simply with raspberry jam and caster sugar. So just take one of your sponges and turn it up so that it's the right way up. And to this one, we're going to add the caster sugar. So I get my large bag of caster sugar again and open up. And you just want to sprinkle caster sugar fairly generously over the top of your cake. Give it a good coating. And that's the top of it decorated. Very straightforward. Just wipe my hands there. And then to the base one, we're going to add some raspberry jam or strawberry jam, or lemon curd is delicious as well. Whatever you've got in your cupboards. So a good helping of raspberry jam in this case. So I've got 2 dessert spoons of raspberry jam. See if I need to add any more, but at this point I'm just going to spread it out nicely to the edges. You could add some fresh cream in here if you wanted to. Some fresh strawberries. whatever you have in the fridge, but I'm just going to keep it very simple for this particular one, and just keep it with raspberry jam. And just make sure you push the raspberry jam right out to the edges so that everybody who has a piece of cake gets plenty of jam in their slice of cake. There we are. Okay, and then place the top layer on top of that. Oh, and that just looks absolutely gorgeous. So let's just finish this off. I'm going to just clean away all that extra caster sugar, get a nice cake stand that I have in my kitchen, and pop this Victoria sponge onto it. And doesn't it look gorgeous? Lovely and risen, lovely golden colour, and just very simple. Raspberry jam in the middle, caster sugar in the top. And let's cut a slice out and see what it's like inside. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Really delicious, and that's just so light and fluffy and airy. It'll be gorgeous. So I would love you to try and make a Victoria sponge. I'd love to see your pictures like I did with your scones of your attempts to make sponge, and I'm sure they'll all be delicious. And whether you do it for Sunday or whether you do it during the week, every day feels like a Sunday. Please enjoy making the cake and enjoy eating it, and I'd love to see your efforts. So until the next time, goodbye.